to have.
Yes, Master. Hey guys, welcome back. Here's my little baby. She's pretty groggy as you can see, but she's being so sweet. Yes, she is. But she's eating, she's drinking, she's using this facility, she's had her meds, she's doing really, really good. And the doctors did a really, really good job on the stitches. My mom, who used to be a medical assistant, took a look at them and said it looks absolutely great. So she's doing great. Yeah, she's pretty groggy, but every so often she'll get up and walk around, and very carefully, mind you. But she's being very, very sweet. Very good. And sleepy and sore, but still the sweetest little thing ever. So, on account of not doing any kind of a Star Wars vlog yesterday, I am triple dipping today. You guys probably already saw my reaction to the Chosen One video about Anakin Skywalker. And I'm going to be doing both fan art and fan fiction today. So, I've got another load of laundry to put in the washer because my mom's still sick, and anyway. I've got another load of laundry to put into the washer and a load to put in the dryer. But after I do that, I'll get started on fan art first. First of all, here's Garazeb Aurelios, also known as Zeb. I think his bottom half turned out okay, but his top half, his mouth and his ears are not very well done, and his gun is kind of lopsided. So, Zeb needs a little bit more work. But, his ears are he kind of looks like an adolescent Lasant. But, there we go. There's Garazeb Aurelios. And the other piece I did, the last member of the Ghost crew is, of course, a CP-10, I think? Chopper! See? Here's Chopper. And I think I did a pretty good job on him. He looks pretty distressed. But there we go. There's the fan art for Fan Art Friday. Okay, so with fan art done, now to move on to the other thing I was going to do today, which is reading more of my fan fiction to you. If you remember, this is The Reason, which is an alternate retelling of the ending of Episode 3 and beyond. So here we go. Chapter 3, Secret Exposed. Padme Amidala had never been a woman who enjoyed being idle, either physically or mentally. She was never an acrobat, but always kept herself healthy. Since her pregnancy began, that did not change, though her activity level did drop as her belly grew larger and more cumbersome. When worried, she had a tendency to pace or revert to the childhood habit of chewing her thumbnail. She had been doing both since the news had broken about the sudden death of Chancellor Palpatine. No details were yet released, but word had it Anakin had been seen entering Palpatine's office beforehand, and had never emerged. He did not answer his comm, nor did the Jedi Temple have any news on him that they were at liberty to discuss. And so Padme, having gone without sleep the previous evening, tried in vain to get some work done, but instead ended up dozing off on her desk. The handmaidens had been sent home. A sudden knock on her door made her flinch awake. "Mistress Padme," called 3PO, waddling up to her and tapping her on the shoulder. "Mistress Padme, are you well?" Padme lifted her head and yawned, running a hand over her tired eyes. What time was it? "What is it, 3PO? "I apologize for awakening you, but there's someone at your front door," said 3PO with his usual fussy nature. "What?" Padme blinked the sleep away from her eyes and noticed the muffled but distant knocking from the front room. Looking at the chronometer, she realized it was several hours past noon when she had fallen asleep. "Oh." Helplessly, she put her hand to her hair. Who could that be? I must be a mess. "Go ahead and let them in, 3PO. I'll be there in a minute." 3PO executed a stiff bow and obediently waddled out of the office to let the unexpected caller inside. Meanwhile, Padme scrambled around, accidentally knocking over a hollow at her desk in her hurry to find a hairbrush. Hurriedly, she got her hair in order, all the while worrying about Anakin. Where is he? What could be keeping him so long? A clip held her hair away from her face, and she scurried out, trying not to look flustered. She stopped in surprise when she saw a very familiar face. Obi-Wan! Perhaps he knows what happened to Anakin. Obi-Wan gave her a very strange smile and a brief embrace. Hello, Padme. I apologize for not calling first. I hope I haven't caught you at a bad time. He noticed how flustered and tired she looked. Padme forced her own smile. Nonsense. It's always good to see an old friend. Come in. The Jedi nodded and followed her to the nearest couch, noting her movements and mannerisms. She was tired, and there was a shift in her center of gravity. Using his Jedi senses, Obi-Wan could indeed detect life in the room other than the two of them. Something very small. I must have been blind, he thought. I expect you've heard about Chancellor Palpatine. Padme bit her lips and nodded. Yes, it was quite a shock. There are only rumors at this point, nothing specific. But Anakin... She stopped, uncertain of how to proceed. I heard Anakin was headed to the Chancellor's office, but never returned. The woman halted, hesitant. Obi-Wan sighed. I'm afraid it's far more complicated than that. It appears that Chancellor Palpatine was the Sith Lord. He controlled the Senate and orchestrated the war. Padme wavered unsteadily, feeling ill. The truth of this statement was evident in Obi-Wan's face. A Sith? This whole time? She shook her head grimly. Are you sure? How could you know? Worry for Anakin multiplied. Obi-Wan pressed his lips together. After the defeat of General Grievous, the Jedi had begun to suspect ill intentions on the Chancellor's part. Anakin was sent to his office to see how he would react, since it would bring about the end of the war. That is where he discovered Palpatine was the Sith Lord. Sith. The word alone was enough to drive a cold chill into even the stiffest spine. Padme gasped involuntarily, covering her mouth and shaking her head. The Jedi swallowed before continuing. There was a confrontation. Palpatine was killed. And Anakin? Padme asked with a trembling voice. He was injured. Obi-Wan grimaced at speaking the words. He lost his leg. The healers were able to reattach it, he added, seeing the look of horror on Padme's face. So he should recover. Padme let out the breath she had been holding, covering her mouth and stifling the coming sobs. In time, she regained control of her emotions and nodded. Poor Anakin. He's been through so much already. She almost asked if she could see him, but stopped herself. It wouldn't be proper. Will he be all right? Time to ask. Obi-Wan moistened his lips. To be honest, that's why I came to see you. He's dropped into a sort of depression, almost as if he's given up. I thought you might be able to help him. She hesitated, flushing. There was nothing more in the galaxy that she wanted, but wasn't sure that she would be able to play the part of a concerned friend much longer. I don't know if that would be... Obi-Wan took her hand. Padme. His voice was gentle. He waited until she looked at him before continuing. I know what secret you and Anakin have been keeping for the past 3 years. He told me about that you and he are married, and that you are expecting a child. A strange mixture of embarrassment and relief flooded into Padme's body, and she slouched on the couch, cheeks burning. She turned away. Yes, I'm sorry about the deception. But I love him, and... Her voice broke and she pressed her lips together to keep from crying. Yes, she loved him. She loved him with her soul, with every part of her being. Now the secret was a secret no longer. Awkwardly, Obi-Wan nodded. I know. I feel rather foolish for not seeing it before, but... He shrugged helplessly. He's going to be expelled, isn't he? That isn't important at the moment. But Padme, I'm concerned for him. I thought perhaps if he could see you, he might feel better. Oh! Padme lifted her eyes with newfound hope. Could I? Yes. I'll explain things to the healers so there won't be any questions. After all, you're old friends. He gave a wan smile. Padme frowned at him with brows knit anxiously. You aren't going to tell the council? Obi-Wan sighed. That will be up to Anakin. A smile of gratitude rose on her face. At least the news wouldn't be plastered all over the galaxy. Padme felt Obi-Wan was one of the few people she could trust with this information. She was glad he knew. Thank you. Without hope, without motivation, and without strength, Anakin slept. He stubbornly refused to eat or drink, forcing the healers to install an intravenous line to keep him hydrated. Sleep came automatically, and with it came further nightmares. Anakin tried not to sleep, but between the exhaustion of his injury and the lack of nourishment, he couldn't prevent it. He was twitching and mumbling in his sleep, a thin film of perspiration on his brow and upper lip, when Obi-Wan and Padme entered his room. Padme closed her eyes briefly before approaching him. "Anakin," she called softly. A trembling hand reached for him. "No, no," mumbled Anakin. "No, no, please." Emotion strangled his voice. "Another nightmare," murmured Obi-Wan. Padme nodded, her heart breaking as she saw his leg in the brace and the pale, dry tone of Anakin's skin. Gently she touched his shoulder. "Anakin." Anakin flinched and his eyes flew open. Disorientation and fear made him hyperventilate until his eyes fell on his wife. "Padme," he whispered. A single tear rolled down his cheek and the spark of hope returned to his eyes. It was as if he had been blind for the last few days and was finally seeing the light again. Padme nodded, clearing away his damp bangs. "I'm here, Anakin." Anakin shuddered and painfully sat up to wrap his arms around his wife. They embraced for a time before he pulled back to kiss her. The kiss was short, as soon Anakin pulled back, holding her face in his hands with a worried expression. "What are you doing here?" Padme sighed. "Anakin, it's all right. Obi-Wan brought me." Anakin shrank away from his wife to throw Obi-Wan, who had just entered, a look that was part suspicion and part surprise. "What?" "He's worried about you," explained Padme. "He says you're hurt and you haven't been eating, that you're acting like you've given up." Anakin threw Obi-Wan a deep frown. "I suppose the rest of the temple knows by now." Obi-Wan shook his head and uncrossed his arms. "No. As I told you, Anakin, you'll have to tell them yourself." Anakin closed his eyes for a minute before turning back to Padme. A sudden wince stole his voice, and he grunted in frustration. "He told me your leg." Padme glanced at it and lightly rested her hand on his hip. "Are you all right?" I'll live. What about you?" Anxiously, Anakin stroked her arms, looking her over as if she was going to shatter like glass. "I'm fine. Anakin, what happened?" Anakin turned away and shook his head. "I don't want to talk about it," he muttered. Padme reached for his arm. "All right, but all I wanted was—" He turned on her, scowling. "I said I don't want to talk about it," he repeated quietly. There was pain in his eyes. Slowly, Padme nodded. She moved cautiously, running her hand along his arm and shoulder. "Does your leg hurt you?" Anakin gritted his teeth. "Some, but I don't want you to worry about me. You take care of yourself and our baby." His hand moved to touch her stomach and got a kick in response. That finally brought a small, wistful smile. It faded as he looked up at her. "You shouldn't stay here. Someone could see us." Padme bit her lip. "What's going to happen?" He shook his head, agonized. "I don't know. But you let me worry about that." He kissed her again, pressing his forehead to hers for a brief second. "Go, Padme. I'll see you soon." She frowned. "I'm not going anywhere until you promise to eat something." Anakin sighed with impatience, but nodded. "All right, I promise. Now go." A final kiss was shared. "I love you." Padme let her hand linger on his face. "I love you too. Take care of yourself." Finally, reluctantly, she pulled away and headed for the door. Obi-Wan courteously stepped aside. "I'll take you home, Senator." A slight smile touched the woman's face. "Thank you, Obi-Wan, but I can manage." With one final, wistful gaze at her husband, Padme left the room with Obi-Wan trailing behind her, offering to see her to the door. Once again, Anakin was left alone. Anger and despair were allowed to simmer in his heart, driving the pain and fear of loss deeper than the pain in his leg. As the sound of their footsteps faded away, he bowed his head and let the tears fall. Okay, guys, there you go. Both Fan Art and Fan Fiction Friday are now finally finished. Whew. It's been kind of a long day, but I'm glad that I got this done early, so that way I can capture this, convert it, and then upload it in a timely manner for you guys. Tomorrow, of course, is St. Patrick's Day, and even though I've got a very teeny tiniest bit of Irish in me, it's a holiday all my family enjoys, but not because of drinking or anything, but because of the history behind it and wearing green, you know, all the fun stuff. So that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like them, go ahead and click that little subscription button below. I'm not going to ask for any more fan art suggestions until after next week, because next week I'm finally going to sketch the entire Ghost crew. But I will see everybody tomorrow, and until next time, this is the Clumsy Jedi signing off. Bye guys.